If you see what they have been doing with the CCP in China, they, from the very start, considered religion, spirituality, ethnic minorities as enemies. They are destroying, day after day, what was the richness of the Chinese identity and culture. Do you think this is proper for China tomorrow? Not at all. China is losing what it has to influence the outside world, which is its culture.
大家好，我是范琪斐，
我是梅乐蒂，
欢迎收看《斐姨所思》。好，那今天阿姨想知道啊，我们要访问一本新书的作者啊，他叫做董尼德，他其实是法国人。OK， 那他写了一本书叫做《幻象帝国》啊，那基本上就是在讲，就是西方国家或西方人对于中国的一些幻想。好，所以他把它总结起来叫做幻象这样子。那我觉得在这边可以特别提醒大家，就是说在西方国家对于中国一直有一个辩论，就一方面呢就是讲说这个中国一定会变得非常的强大，未来就看中国啦，好，这是一派的说法。那另外一派的说法呢，就是说这中国一定完蛋 ，OK， 这样发展下去，中国铁定完蛋这样子。好，那它是属于后者这一种啊，我觉得比较属于后者这一种。我觉得他，不过我必须要讲哦，他因为他曾经被派驻在中国，他是个记者啊，被派驻在中国，有4-5年的时间，然后对于中国有长期的观察哦，有长达40年的观察，他其实应该算是法国非常有名的中国专家了，
而且他非常的爱中国，
对他非常对，要强调一点，虽然说呢，他是属于这个我们刚刚讲的中国这个制度一定完蛋的这一派的，但是他其实非常热爱中国哦，在他的序里面，他特别强调这一点。不过他的这个简历，我还是交给梅乐蒂来仔细介绍一下。
好，董尼德他现在是法国的亚洲周刊的总编辑。那他过去刚刚范姐提到他派驻中国嘛，我觉得很有趣。他派驻中国的时间是在中国的2大灾难中间，一个是就是文化大革命之后到6四天安门事件之前的这段时间，
事实上是1984到1989之间了。
对，这个时间是中国在经济崛起，然后还没有陷入灾难，就是政治灾难的这个过程。对，然后而且他因为很热爱中国，又长期派驻中国，所以他是一个某程度上可以算是一个外国人，但是有中国inside的一个我觉得蛮重要的一个人物。对，所以我觉得今天请他来是提供另外一个 view， 像范姐刚刚提到，就是很多外国人对中国的想法是这些，但是那些欧美的人士并不一定深度的了解中国才有这个想法。那他今天是不一样的，他看过中国的基层是什么样子，他实际体验过那个制度，所以或许他可以有不一样的想法。
另外一点我觉得很特别的哦，就是说，因为他是长期驻外记者嘛，哈，那我自己也是啦，哦，所以我们刚刚讲起来的时候，我其实特别的有一些我觉得特别有感哈，有共鸣。然后呢，他除了派驻过中国之外，他其实有派驻过东京、华沙，还有一些中东国家，所以他对于地缘政治其实有蛮多他自己的看法，其实蛮特殊的哦。因为一般来讲，驻中国的很多研究中国的学者只懂中国，那他不是只懂中国，他其实对于亚洲这个东北亚国家，尤其是东北亚国家，其实蛮多研究的。OK， 好，那所以接下来我们就来听听董尼德是怎么说的吧。So Pierre, please say hi to our audience.
你们好，大家好。Hello, how are you?
你好。So Pierre, you were in Beijing, so you were posted over there.
Yes.
But you also posted in Tokyo and New York and a lot of Middle East countries. But in your book, you said that you are very fond of China.
Yes.
Why is that China holds such a special place in your heart?
Well, for several reasons. The first reason is that it was my first posting abroad for AFP, 法国新闻社, and the period I was there was especially interesting because it was less than 10 years after the end of the Cultural Revolution. And I found out that many people wanted to talk about their experience. And especially they would talk to foreigners who could speak Chinese, because there was still a kind of paranoia. Speaking to other Chinese would be dangerous. So I was there in a period where these people wanted to testify what they endured, all the painful things that they went through. That's another reason. And the third reason is that, for me, this is humankind, human beings like anywhere else. So I found there solidarity. People who suffered a lot, they were joining hands. Poor people also, simple people who join hands. So this is human nature that I found also in China. And this is one of the reasons why I love China.
But in your book, I could also sense that now you feel frustrated and also disappointed, I think.
Yeah.
So could you tell us, what do you disagree with China nowadays?
The system. Just the system. Because you saw Marxism, when it was invented by Karl Marx, was a good thing, because that was in the middle of beginning of the capitalism period, and the working class was in a difficult situation. So he settled the basis to improve the situation of these ordinary people. But Marxism has been used for totalitarian regime, including in China. So it was perverted. And the years passing there, I could witness how Gongchangjuyi was misused in China to serve the people in power on the back of the ordinary people. No freedom of expression, rich people becoming more rich, sometimes immensely rich, with poor people, so that, lead to frustration for the normal people. And witnessing that is also frustration for me, myself.
But, since we are talking about the system, a lot of people feeling that the Chinese people doesn't feel that the system is anything wrong at all. So is that your impression over there too?
I don't think so. It's hard to have a definite answer, yes or no. But of course you have part of the population who still has the impression that stability is essential for them. This is actually very Chinese. Stability first. This comes from centuries of history. And each time I went back, that, of course, many people don't like the system. When I was there, it was still possible to express. They had many ways of expressing their discontent. And but today, all this is being suppressed. I don't share that view with you that it's all rosy. It's not rosy at all, actually. And especially today, because there is a lot of young people without job, including those who are actually majored. They come out of university after 3-4 years of studies, and they find no job. That's really something unprecedented in China. For the first time since the 70s, when Deng Xiaoping launched the economic reforms, for the first time, this is happening there in China with far-reaching consequences.
When you were in China, you said it's from 84 to 89, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, but I think China is very different nowadays. We are talking about now is much more powerful than back then.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the economy-wise, I think, the Chinese people have experienced the prosperity for quite a while. So I would say a lot of Chinese people feel differently about their own country.
Yes.
Compared to like 89, like 30 years ago, I think they feel very differently. And a lot of people make me feel that they are actually very proud of.
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. And I would even say that for the first time in centuries, they feel they can be proud of their country. They know that it's the second biggest economy in the world. They hear that in the radio, or they watch that at TV every day. And so they feel comfortable about that. That's no question about it. But that doesn't mean that everything is rosy, again, because with sort of prosperity comes new ideas, and also a different way of looking at the situation, especially, again, for the young people. Frankly speaking, the young people today, what they hear from the propaganda is not satisfying for them at all. Because you have people who are 80 years old, the government or at the head of the CCP, their ideas that they are trying to unpass to the young generation are useless. there is a big divorce between these octogenarians, I mean old people leading the country, and the needs of the young people. And with each year passing, that gap is becoming wider.
A lot of people believe that they had already rock bottom, and then it's at a point it's going to bounce back. But from your book, when I was reading your book, you don't think the future is very promising for the Chinese economy. Why is that?
The first one for me, the most important one, is that when they saw a growth rate of the GDP, 2 digits, 10%, 11%, 12%, they started to dream about an all-powerful China, capable of doing anything. And then they started a kind of frenzy of building roads, airports, useless buildings, also the real estate bubble, which now prove to be a big mistake. When you see the real estate scandal, when you see Evergreen now going bankrupt, again, for the old generation, some would say hundreds of thousands of old people, they bet on this bubble to invest money, to buy some flats or so forth, to rent them, to make money for their retirement age. They were fooled. Today they have nothing. So it's all a question of credibility and confidence. The confidence which was very strong for maybe, let's say, 40 years after Deng Xiaoping launched the economic reform, the confidence is slowly vanishing.
Okay. So, yeah, I think the confidence is very important for economy to bounce back, actually. But I have to say that young people nowadays, I think they are even more patriotic than older generation. That's my impression, because we went into argument with the Chinese young people all the time, and then their worldview is very different from their parents. I would say they are even more aggressive because of the patriotic education or whatever you call it. They are more hostile to the Western style of way of living. Because in the past, I think the Western style of living is like a goal for everyone. Like this is like we have freedom, we have democracy, and then we also have prosperity at the same time. But nowadays, I don't think it's the case anymore. I mean, a lot of people would say that, look at the West is in chaos, and then China is doing very well. We have a very safe country, and then our life is a lot better than 20, 30 years ago when we were younger. So do you think the Western style of living, I mean, in general, Chinese people still think that this is something that we should work hard to get to?
I think you're partly right, for sure. Because this Western model is not anymore the way of dreaming for the future, to say it simply. And even also for the Chinese young people who have access to information coming from outside. That's important. They have a critical view on the West, of course. When you see the American president, Donald Trump, for the young people in China, they would, of course, be critical and ironical. He is actually a countermodel for the West, including for the young people who watch that. But also I saw drug addicts, I saw jobless people living in the streets. This is also part of the West. Nobody can ignore that. This is part of the Western system. And many also Chinese intellectuals traveling outside, they would feel the same. And they would, to certain ways, be proud of what China achieved. And actually, they are true to be proud of what China achieved. But again, I think that human beings need more than just having a material life, buying things that they can buy. Living with only that is empty. Inside your brain and your heart, you must have something else. You must have a spiritual life, which I find almost non-existent in China under the CCP.
Is it non-existent as for after Xi Jinping came to power, or is because of the communist system?
Okay, let's say that in 1949, when the CCP took power, there was a tremendous hope. The Chinese people were, almost all of them, were tired about corruption and all what they were living in. even with the Kuomintang regime at that time. But there was lots of promises. You will see, you will have a nice life with us. It will take time. But, first they saw all these political movements, which were chaotic, Not only the Great Leap Forward, but also before that, the campaign of 100 Flowers. And then came the Counter-Revolution. Most of the promises were not fulfilled. Starting from 2012, which was the year when Xi Jinping came to power, it changed a lot step by step. For a more rigorous system, you have now millions of cameras everywhere. Apparently there are more than close to 1 billion cameras, so almost one camera for any citizen in China. So why this surveillance? Because the CCP feels insecure. There is a kind of paranoia. And this is actually a proper distinction of totalitarian regime, paranoia. They always fear that maybe some dissent voices may one day, overcome them and put them out. And this is a constant obsession, I think, of Xi Jinping. I don't think that the people who are capable of knowing what's happening outside China can accept such a system in the long run. Because, again, you need something else in your way of thinking than just surveillance and something to eat every day.
Pierre, I have to say that this is kind of like, for me, it sounds like kind of Western point of view, because a lot of Chinese people would tell you, we are different.
Of course, they will say that.
We are different. I think a lot of people Chinese people would say that we're different. We don't need that.
I'm not Chinese, so also, of course I accept that.
Yeah. So I'm saying probably a Chinese model is possible, because the Western model, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So we are going to have a brand new system, which is a Chinese model, and it will work.
I will be sincere and straightforward. On one side, you have what they call the Chinese model. Do you see any other country in the world adopting that system, that model? I don't see any. Not one. Not a single one. They have the so-called allies, like North Korea, Iran, Russia now. So it's the new Gang of Four, I would say, in a way. I think it's cruel to say that. It's cruel, but that's the reality, okay? And having said that, I would be the first to say that the capitalist model has come to its limit. It cannot go like that for anymore, a long time. It's actually on the verge of collapsing. So with that, democracy are also in danger since the end of the Second World War. So you have on one side a kind of country which is China, which has reached its top. But on the other side, you have a system which is not credible anymore. So the world today is facing an immense question mark. What's going to happen in the next, let's say, 10 years? Nobody really knows. What I can say is that, again, I think the growth that we saw in China for more than 40 years has stopped. For many other reasons, it cannot go as it was before. The world is really facing big uncertainties. But I don't think that China has the answers as it is now with the so-called Chinese model to answer questions that the world has today. Some of them, but not many.
I think you have to elaborate that for me. Why do you think that Chinese model is not the answer?
Okay, so I will return to something I said before. Marxism is based on material life. So it's only made to improve the standard of living in terms of your daily life, having enough money to live, to feed yourself, to buy food and clothes, to have money to educate your offsprings, but nothing more. And human nature needs something else. I'm totally convinced of that. If you see what they have been doing with the CCP in China, they, from the very start, considered religion, spirituality, ethnic minorities as enemies. because that was out of the scope of Marxism, Leninism. So they are destroying day after day what was the richness of the Chinese identity and culture. Everything is rewritten. History, they are consciously erasing what is not serving the CCP, and they are rewriting history to fit their objectives. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is proper for China tomorrow? Not at all. China is losing what it has to influence the outside world, which is its culture. You see?
You wrote about like China's Great Firewall prevents its people from accessing outside information.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I've heard that there are people saying, that, through VPNs, Chinese people can actually, very easily access outside world.
Okay.
But still, their worldview is very different from the outside world, okay? And then there are some people saying that that's because of a language. Most of the Chinese people just doesn't read anything outside of Chinese. Do you think it's one of the reasons that they think so differently?
I think it depends on who we are talking about within the young generation. The one who are living in the countryside, of course, they have a difficult time to understand really what's happening outside China, because first, for example, when you talk about VPN, okay, it's successful. You can access to the outside world, but for a limited time. Mm-hmm. Because now they have all the means to cut that in 20 minutes. Then you have to find a new VPN, and it costs a lot of money. So only the rich young people can afford that. So not in the countryside, and there is also this language barrier. But for all the others who are living in the cities, especially if they are educated, it's totally different, because a lot of them, they could understand basic English. And if not, now you have lots of applications with direct translation. So I don't think this is really a barrier to understand the outside world. When we talk about the young Chinese and the big gap between them and the narrative that the CCP is offering them, how can they protest? Now I see is that not only they don't marry, they don't want babies. Of course, this is happening elsewhere, especially, demography is going down in South Korea, in Taiwan, in Japan, and also now in China. But another reason of that is I think that this is also a way for the young women, and including their partners, to say to the CCP, okay, you want to force us a system we don't want. There will be no more Chinese in 100 years from now if you continue. So you will be dead anyway, you see. So it's a form of protest. And I think this is an ultimate possibility for them to show that they cannot accept the way of living that the CCP is trying to persuade them to adopt.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when Xi Jinping came to power, I think, China's economic power is at its highest point at that time. And then after that, we are seeing it declining, okay? And then, so do you think that's a nature evolution of the system, this declining, coming down, or it's because of Xi Jinping? In short, did Xi Jinping fuck up China's economy? Did he?
I wouldn't say that this way. But no, there are two different parts in the question.
Okay.
One is the natural evolution which actually exists. In every system, also in every empire, you have a long history of rising up. And then it reaches the top and starts to decline. This is what we see when we see the Chinese economy, social system, and so forth. This is natural. Also, the economy in China has matured. By that, I would say that now the ordinary working class is asking for more money, better salaries. So the competition is becoming very tough with other countries, like I would say India, for instance, or I don't know, Vietnam. You see, so for foreign companies investing in China, it's becoming less interesting, especially also because they are adopting laws which are totally stupid against the so-called foreign spying in China, which has a very negative influence on investors. So that's the first part. The second part is Xi Jinping. when you have all the powers and that you don't listen to others, especially the one who have experience within the CCP, and you decide by yourself, you commit mistakes. And in June, possibly you noticed that there was a meeting of the Politburo. For the first time since a long period of time, they said it was important to restore a collective decision process, which actually disappeared. Why that? Big surprise. So people started wondering, not the ordinary Chinese people, because the way they look at that in the Bar is very, strictly presented. But even the ordinary Chinese people, they noticed that Xi Jinping Sixiang, which was all the time in front page of Bar and other newspapers or TV or radio, suddenly was less and less mentioned. Another question mark. So analysis is difficult. Is it criticism against Xi Jinping, or is it he himself who decided that there must be some changes? Myself, I can hardly answer, but I would tend to say it's the second solution. I don't think that there is a driving force organized in China against him. For me, it's almost impossible, because he has all the means to suppress them. In the past year, we witnessed there were some criticism, but nothing organized. So for me, it was Xi Jinping himself who realized that the way things were done, including his decisions, led to mistakes. And also, I think that only now he starts to feel that there is a necessity for him to think about tomorrow when he's not going to be here anymore. To prepare China for these changes. So I believe that he is wise enough to step by step, not relinquishing his power, but beginning to share part of it with others that, of course, he selects as trusted people, allies for him, no danger for him and his thought. If there is one day a real change in terms of politics, it will come from inside the regime, inside China, not from outside. Because, as you said, the Chinese people are proud of themselves, and they will never bow to foreigners to adopt what they say. Never. And this is totally true. But time, as Bob Dylan said, there is a change. Time is changing, including in China. Xi Jinping knows that. He knows that he's powerful, that his future is guaranteed for the next few years. But I'm convinced that he's not only intelligent, but he knows that for him it's important, if he wants to leave a legacy in Chinese history, to prepare the future. And that's his goal. He wants to remain in China as not only a new Mao Zedong, because Mao Zedong has so much, he committed such huge, terrible mistakes in his life. He was a real tyrant. Xi Jinping is not that sort of person, but he's someone really authoritarian, preparing his future as the one who really changed China forever.
The other question is that about the Chinese economy again. We're talking about 内循环, right? I mean, Xi Jinping has been promoting that for years. It could be a independent system, from American system or European systems. Okay, so how likely do you think this system will survive? Is it even possible? Because I think they have been cultivating these ideas for years, but I don't think it's reaching its goal at all.
It's just impossible to organize, because the Chinese economy depends for exports. Without export, the whole economy will collapse. So when we saw first the pandemic crash, it was a very big challenge for the Chinese economy. That was the beginning of when the GDP started to fall. And then internal consumption is also falling. Why? Because the confidence is slowly disappearing. And the Chinese reaction, they are cautious people. When they see that the future is not guaranteed anymore, they would save money and they would not spend money. So the internal consumption is going down. So the whole system wouldn't work anyway. The Chinese economy cannot sustain by itself. It needs the outside world. This is a prerequisite for the future.
But I think Xi Jinping is championing some ideas about like most of the economists would say that's the consumption that's driving the economy, right? But I think he is trying to switch it to the production side of it.
Yes.
Supply side.
Well, the thing is that also this is it has a counterproductive result, because realizing that the internal consumption is falling, they continue to overproduce. For example, EVs, and that now you see in China there is a terrible competition between the producers of EVs, one against the other. So the prices are falling, and they go bankrupt. You have maybe 3 or 4 dozens of EVs producers now in China. The main ones are still around, but the small ones, they are all collapsing, because the exports are also regressing. If you see the latest figure, which was published just yesterday, you saw that the exports are not actually going up, but it's the opposite. So the economy is squeezed. So the way Xi Jinping offers an answer is going nowhere. This is why I said that the Chinese economy is stopping its possibilities. It cannot go further in a way or another. Because internal consumption is not progressing, it's the opposite. And now you have a reaction from the outside world closing their borders, including in the European Union, because it's subsidized, there is illegal competition. So even in our countries in Europe, we understand that, importing EVs which are produced under their value because of subsidies from the state, this is not true competition.
But how long do you think the Europeans can sustain to resist all these very cheap products?
Well, that's a big question, but you see, again, this is in the background of a naivety which is fading. The first shock came during the pandemic when, for example, France, we realized that nothing is produced in our countries anymore, so we depend exclusively on China, or, for example, for aspirin from India. So that led to some of internal reflection, and that started the thinking that we have to organize to not get rid totally, but a little bit, and more from the imports, including from China.
Okay, so let's talk about Taiwan. Okay, so how likely do you think the CPP will attack Taiwan?
Well, I suppose you asked the questions many times to the people you are interviewing.
Yes.
And I suppose also that most of them don't have a clear answer, because there is this date of 2027 floating around already for some time. I think again that including Xi Jinping, he wants to do anything but war up to today, because the war would be very, very costly for the two sides. It would cost hundreds of thousands of lives. It would cost a huge disaster for the economy, including for the Chinese economy, which really doesn't need that these days. And it would be a risk also of losing the war, because nobody can predict how the war would evolve. So he would try hard not to declare a hot war. That would be the last resort. And but there are different forms of warfare. It could be cyber attacks. It could be squeezing the Taiwanese economy, paralyzing the country, and that is actually much more possible. We have seen in the past few years how they can deploy ships and warplanes around very easily around Taiwan, and they are testing the Taiwanese army possibilities. Each time they are testing a little more, meters by meters. They are approaching Taiwan, and they are doing that on purpose to know exactly how Taiwan could answer or respond if there is a war being declared or whatever. They are also testing Taiwan neighbors. They are testing the United States. This is actually one of the main question marks for tomorrow. We'll see how it evolves. My view is that, for example, another test would be to invade Tinmen. Tinmen is very easy for them to capture. So they capture Tinmen, there would be a minimal cost, and that would have a tremendous impact on the Taiwanese population. Because the way they do is they try to terrorize the population in Taiwan with not much positive effect. Because each time I come to Taiwan, I see a serenity here. People are used to all these threats, and for decades now. So this is not really working. They try to infiltrate the Taiwanese society, which is something much more perverse. But also they do that. To invade a country doesn't mean you succeed. You may take control of the country. You may kill the leaders and replace them by others sympathetic to Beijing. That doesn't mean that you succeeded at all. Because one thing is to military or whatever conquer a country, but you cannot conquer the heart and the feelings of the people. And what I feel in Taiwan is that the people are Taiwanese. There is a strong identity, and this identity will resist for decades, unless forever. And maybe they don't know that in Beijing. They don't realize how powerful is that.
But what I'm worried about is that, do you think Xi Jinping is capable of doing irrational decisions,
yes.
like, Putin?
Sure. That's the question. I don't believe he would be that irrational. Actually, Putin was not irrational when he started the war. But I mean, it wouldn't be irrational, like, for example, Trump, in announcing something which is totally wrong or counterproductive. He will not take any risk. Losing a war in Taiwan would be a disaster for the CCP. It would be a collective suicide. So he wouldn't dare trying that, you see. But no, he's just cold-tempered, cold-blooded. So he's looking at the situation. He say, "Yes, Mr. Trump, please continue doing what you are doing. You are helping us so much. Continue doing that."
So before that, I think in the book, you mentioned that if Trump had not been elected as U.S. president, China would have become a ticking time bomb.
That's actually, I'm saying that, but the one who said that was Joe Biden.
Okay, but then Donald Trump got elected. All right. So this so do you think that China's still going to be a ticking time bomb or not?
When we say time bomb, there is the word time. And what Trump is doing is giving time to China. He's giving leverage for China. He's giving opportunities for Xi Jinping to wait. When you see the spectrum of the geopolitical situation, the evolution is actually in the favor of China with every day passing. So for them, the wiser thing is just to wait. Continuing, of course, all what they are doing to undermine the system in Taiwan, to work very hard to decredibilize the TPP, to present their leaders, especially Mr. Lai Ching-te, as someone aggressive and dangerous for the people in Taiwan. So they are doing that all the time. They are using, of course, also other systems like TikTok, because for the young generation, it's a perfect way to two things. One, to take them out of the realities of the world today by looking at fantasies or something which has nothing to do with the challenges of the world today. That's one thing. And the other thing is with veiled propaganda, with some veiled messages to instill in the brains of these young people a view which is totally different from the normal democratic system.
So since we're talking about TikTok, so what should we do with that? Seriously, because do you think we should ban it? But so many people are using it in Taiwan,
yes,
and then also we have freedom of speech to think about.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what do you think we should hear in Taiwan? What should we do about it?
I can talk about France. In France also there are millions of young people who are using TikTok, and it's part of their daily life. So you can hardly ban it. In the United States, it was even much worse. So let's talk about the European Union as a collective organization. The European Commission they took the decision to forbid this kind of application to be in the official telephones of people working for the administration. That's one thing. It's fine in the same. Some of these Chinese applications are just forbidden because it's also a backdoor permitting them to spy on you in a way or another. That's true. But as you said, in a democratic country, it's hard just to say, no, we ban this and this is finished for young people who are using it every day, for some of them hours and hours every day. So the only solution, there are two solutions. One being defining rules. For example, for the Chinese television system CGTN, they have been spreading propaganda and sometimes untrue stories, and that is forbidden now, and they know that, because the punition would be that they close the whole thing. So now they behave, not to cross the red lines. It should be the same for TikTok, having very precise regulations. Where are the red lines? And the other solution is trying to do using same ways that are affordable for young people, that are also attractive, to having them also use these applications. Of course, they were the first to have such a system, which is used now by more than 2 billion people across the world. So it's difficult, but I mean, this is the only answer. But the first thing, rules, is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, but rules here in Taiwan, we found it very hard to enforce. Though.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to do. So what do you think we here in Taiwan, what should we do right away?
You know, I'm not living in Taiwan. I know Taiwan quite well because I've been living here to learn Mandarin a long time ago. And I've been here many, many times. I have many friends here, good friends, close friends. So I possibly know the situation here in Taiwan. I think more efforts should be done for the young people from the government and all the other institutions towards the young people. Because what I see is that, as in other democratic countries, their focus has nothing very much to do with politics and with what are the challenges. They dream about another world. They are in their own bubble. And so, especially for the Taiwan youth, compared to the one in France, we have other priorities. But here, it's to give them incentives to really understand the situation. It's a difficult game. It's not a game, actually. It's really a tough program to try to convince them that they have in their hands the future of Taiwan. You are from a generation who knows what happened during the Japanese occupation, colonization, which was actually not that so hard compared to Korea or China. You know what happened when Chiang Kai-shek came to Taiwan, the White Terror and so forth. You know the identity which came out of this. The identity is here, very strong. But this identity may fade away with the years passing for the young generation because the world is open. So what's interesting for them is K-pop in South Korea or manga in Japan. This is their priority compared to the real political challenges, not only political, actually, social, economic challenges that they will face one day or another. Once they marry or don't marry, once they have children or even they don't have children when they grow up, they will face the real world. So I think there is a real need to prepare them to face this real difficult world that we all know today.
I totally agree with you. And then I think the answer lies within that they have to believe that they can change their own future. They have the...
Not change. Take the future in their hands.
In their hands, yeah.
Their destiny is
in their own hands.
It's not their parents, it's them.
I like to talk about the book. Why do you call it 幻象帝国? I think in French it's like mirage. You know, why you call it?
It's illusions, yeah. We have the same illusion in French language. Illusion, why illusions? Because the CCP has all tyrannic or totalitarian regimes, they are lying all the time. Well, now we see the American president also lying all the time, but it's part of the system for a totalitarian regime is to lie, to present the facts in a totally distorted way, to persuade them that only the CCP is the future of China. That's said all the time. 没有共产党 没有什么？
没有共产党，
没有新中国，
没有新中国，
所以
Yeah.I'm not Chinese, so it doesn't come naturally.
Yes.
but I heard about it, yes.
But you take the train, you have that all in your ears all the time. So, for the people, you repeat something wrong 1,000 times and it becomes the truth, you see? So you lie and lie and lie, and at the end, they start to believe in these lies. This is part of the system. So they lie to their own people, and they lie also to the outside world. We, the West, we have been naive for decades about China, communist China. We believed, for example, in the Pacific rise of China, which was actually, like a snake approaching you and it bit you. It's too late then. So they seduce you. They will tell you, you will see, we are pacifist. We are pacific. We have pacific intentions. We will never do a war at all. Look at America. They have been doing war in Vietnam and everywhere, Afghanistan and so forth. This is not true. When you see what they are doing in the South China Sea, for instance, but not only there. So these lies, this is the basis of my book, because I thought that we in the West were too naive. And only now in the West we start to realize what is China, the real intention of the regime, because the regime can survive only if it's by force, and even outside the boundaries of China.
Do you think Donald Trump is naive about the concept of China, though?
I think it's not a question of being naive. I think he's just crazy. The way he behaves is very strange. And it has tremendous consequences for the whole world. Of course, including Asia, and actually, first of all, for Asia. Ukraine, of course, it's in Europe. So we have a war in Europe now. And for the European people, it's an immediate danger. So they rise up, and now they are conscious of the possibility of the war enlarging. So there is a kind of collective response starting. But for Asia, it's maybe even worse, because it's not only Taiwan, it's the whole region, which is actually, for me, Eastern Asia, Northeast Asia is the future of the world in the terms of economy, and possibly a new system replacing the capitalism, which is going down.
You mean you are thinking that the new system will coming out
New ideas
yes. will coming out from Asia?
Why not?
Of course.
Japan is changing. And Japan, with people were always saying, oh, Japan will never change because they have old ideas. It's not true. Japan is changing. South Korea is changing at a tremendous pace. Taiwan is changing also a lot. And so, and also economically speaking, this is the real faulting zone where the economic future is for the world.
Okay, so this is our tradition for our program. So if the audience can take away one concept or one sentence, what would you like it to be?
Especially for the young people, they have to take their own destiny in their own hands. They can fully now understand what is the West doing, what are the wrongdoings done by the West, and also what mistakes have been done in Asia. So I think the future is the young people. So it's time for them to take their destiny in their hands.
Okay, thank you very much, Pierre. Thank you.
My pleasure.
那讲一下 takeaway 好了哈，我觉得第一个 takeaway 就是说，就是中国攻台这一个有关这个命题啦哦，他的看法是，他觉得这是一个会被非常小心处理的问题他说真正会有发生热战的可能性，有可能是因为意外造成的，但是除了这个可能性之外，他觉得其实各方包括美国、中国、台湾，甚至不止还有亚洲的邻国，都会非常小心来处理这个问题，所以他 反而认为说中国攻台，因为他要付出的代价非常的高，他其实认为并不是那么容易发生的事。好，这是第一个。然后第二个是在我问他就是习近平的个性这件事情，我觉得因为他长期观察的关系，他认为习近平其实不是一个很冲动的人，
不像普丁
不，他甚至他在他的想法，他觉得普丁当时做那个决定的时候，也不算是很冲动的决定，只是我觉得可能他拿到了讯息，资讯不太好。那我其实担心的，我之前我也会担心习近平会有同样的问题啊。但是照董尼德的讲法，他认为习近平不是这样一个人，他其实是一个非常谨慎的人。OK， 所以他觉得，因为他非常谨慎的关系，而且他觉得在现在目前中国发生了很多的这个状况，其实他已经知道自己有些东西做错了，所以正在想办法补救。OK， 现在是在这个阶段这样子，不过然后另外有一点我非常非常同意的，就是有关于台湾的前途这件事情。他认为台湾的前途必须是要让台湾的年轻人觉得未来是掌握在自己的手里的，这样台湾才会有救。这个我完全同意啊！我觉得这不是只有台湾这样子，其实世界各国都是一样。如果年轻人不觉得他们的未来是在自己手上的时候，他为什么要努力呢？所以我当然是我觉得这个非常重要。但是我接下来讲我不同意的地方好了哈。我不同意他的观点的部分，应该是在我不觉得，因为他就说在接下来的事件里面，他认为答案不在中国，就 Chinese model， 他觉得没有办法提供答案，就是我们目前世界所面临的一些挑战或是考验，他觉得中国没有答案，
没有那个唯一解，
对，他没有那唯一解。可是我觉得这个应该是我自己的看法哈，我觉得我们还不知道答案。我觉得这个问题，我觉得我们还不知道答案。我觉得中国的情况当然现在是不好，但是我觉得在不好之后会发生什么样的事情，其实我们不晓得。OK， 然后再加上川普这么高的不确定性的人加进来，把再放进来看的话，我其实觉得现在非常的困难来回答这个问题。然后我还是觉得有可能的。我觉得，因为尤其是在亚洲国家里面，如果说我们在讲这个答案会出现在亚洲的话，我还是觉得中国的可能性会比日本高，会比韩国高，会比东南亚国家高。如果这个答案会出现在亚洲的话，这是我的想法啦。好，那你的 take away？
好，其实讲到这个，我们在寻找唯一解这件事情其实我在读这本书的时候，我并没有很 catch 到说他为什么要写这本书，因为其实这本书很多内容，像范姐一定很有感。这本书写很多内容，其实我们做很多这个中国议题研究，很多东西我们都看过了，
对，
甚至很多论点我们都看过。但那为什么同样的东西会再写一遍呢？直到访谈结束之后，我才稍微 catch 到这个点，就是像刚刚提到，他在寻找，我觉得他在寻找制度的这个唯一解。那他可能因为他是出生于欧洲，那欧洲他也不断有提到说，资本主义其实已经发展到一个巅峰了。他希望的是寻找一个新的
一个新的答案，
对，一个新的答案。那我觉得他热爱中国的原因在这，因为他到了中国，结果发现说，原来人类可以用另外一种方法生存。所以他当时，我觉得他是热爱中国的原因，就是他寄望于这个唯一解的未来可能会发生在亚洲。
那可是结论是没有，
对，结论是没有。他发现中共的状况实在太糟糕了，所以我觉得这个希望转成了失望，所以他才会在这本书里面不断的表露出他的失望这件事情，所以他才会觉得说中国这套制度是不行的。对，这是我的感受。
那尤其是讲到台湾年轻人这一段，你有没有什么感想？
台湾年轻人这一段其实这几年有一个在网络上一直有个讨论，就是台湾的年轻人陷入一种叫虚无主义。所谓虚无主义就是不管谁执政啊，蓝的执政啊，绿的执政啊，反正你们都没有办法改变我的生活，我的生活还是过得那么糟，我不管投给谁都一样啊，那干脆就躺平好了。就虚无主义是一种思想上的躺平，然后我就fine，你们不管怎么搞，我都不 care 了。
那他也不投票了吗？
他就是后来有出现一个第三势力，就是民众党，台湾民众党。所以台湾民众党有一个说法说，台湾民众党为什么会有这么多年轻人支持？就是一种虚无主义的出口。既然有人想要出来挑战这个既有的蓝绿秩序，那不然我就试试看他吧。虽然他可能做了很多东西看起来乱糟糟的，但是 他毕竟至少敢出来挑战这个大秩序啊，那我就偷偷看吧。
可是我觉得这个比较像是 disruption 啦，哈，就是说现有的制度因为很多问题没有办法解决嘛，哈，那应该说一个僵化的制度啦，它就会出现 disruption， 然后就是一个把它打破重来的，有一点打破重练的意思啦，
是啊，
然后。我觉得台湾的第三势力比较像是这样，就是他就觉得现在目前的制度就是已经就是没有，不管是蓝绿两党都没有办法提供答案的时候，可能要打破重来。
对，不管是谁，不管他做什么，只要能打破，我就先支持他。
好，
对啊
OK， 好，那我们今天讨论就到这边了哈。那大家如果有什么想法的话，非常欢迎留言来告诉我们。那如果喜欢我们节目的话，应该要
按赞、订阅、分享、抖内。
好，谢谢大家。